Thanks for joining us. I'm Kim Christensen.
And I'm Kyle Clark. Appreciate you staying with us after the game. So now that the longest government shutdown in U.S. history is over, SNAP food benefits are going out to the roughly 600,000 Coloradans who received them.
Some received their November payments today. Others are still waiting on benefits that have now been delayed for nearly 2 weeks. 9 News reporter Shalima Maharaj is here after talking with a nonprofit that's witnessed the struggle during this shutdown. Shalima.
Yeah, they really have. Warren Village supports low-income single-parent families across Denver, and about 90% of the families that they serve rely on SNAP benefits. So the shutdown pushed a lot of people into a period of intense stress and anxiety and uncertainty. Now, CEO Ethan Hemming tells me that staff have heard from several families who say that their EBT cards were refilled this morning. Now, others received email notices that their benefits should be restored within the next day or two. For many, that news brings a huge sense of relief. The state says it is working to deliver 100% of the November payments as quickly as possible to the hundreds of thousands of Coloradans who rely on them.
I mean, I think the ones obviously that got the funding onto their cards, they're happy and they're grateful and relieved and appreciative. And those who are waiting, I think, are cautiously optimistic. And I think they're in that mode of like some relief. And then how do we trust moving forward?
Now, Ethan Hemming says the last few weeks have been a real test for just about everyone. They are seeing the affordability crisis from every angle. And right now, that wait list for affordable housing across their 3 locations is the highest it's ever been. And he says what they need most right now is consistent, reliable funding from the government. In studio, Shalima Maharaj, 9 News.
While the government is back open, the FAA is still requiring airlines to cut flights at 40 busy airports, including DIA. The agency announced last night that mandated cuts will not go above the current level of 6%. They originally said cuts would increase to 8% by today and 10% by tomorrow, arguing they're necessary to keep air traffic safe because of a spike in understaffing among air traffic controllers. They now say staffing has improved over the past several days, but haven't announced an end to the flight restrictions. The union that represents air traffic controllers says the shutdown has put a spotlight on years-long staffing shortages that have had controllers working 6 days a week. They hope that will spur change, but they're glad the government is back open.
It has been just an unnecessary distraction. We have to show up and be 100%. People's lives are at stake.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has said that controllers and other FAA employees should receive 70% of their back pay within 24 to 48 hours at the end of the shutdown. He said the rest should come over the next couple paychecks. The legislation President Trump signed last night didn't just reopen the government, it also created a new restriction on hemp products.
Yeah, critics are warning that this could shut down the entire industry. 9 News reporter Colton Chavez is in Denver. And Colton, you know, this restriction has not taken effect yet.
No, Kyle, they still have a little bit of time. Businesses shouldn't see this go into effect for another year. But tonight, industry experts also tell me they say these changes could eliminate nearly all of the hemp products that we see currently on the shelves.
And it wasn't the time to debate the legality of hemp. It was time to get the government open.
The bill that reopened the government is now threatening the hemp industry.
That's really going to affect our hemp operators and our hemp consumers.
Shannon Donnelly, a professor of cannabis at MSU Denver, says the old rule allowed hemp products to contain 0.3% of THC by weight. The new rule, products can only contain 0.4 milligrams of THC per container,
which is really going to eliminate maybe 95% of the hemp products that are on the market today.
Hemp products come from marijuana plants but don't contain much THC, the compound that gets you high. Professor Donnelly worries about the impact this decision will have on hemp businesses.
And those businesses may have to shutter down and close their doors and let go of all their employees in a hard employment market already.
The law is in response to the old rule, which created a sort of loophole, allowing hemp products to contain higher levels of THC that mirrored the potency of products sold only in dispensaries.
You could go to a liquor store in another state or even sometimes in Colorado and find products that have 1 to 10 milligrams of THC in a beverage and drink that up in not having to go into a dispensary to purchase that.
Professor Donnelly says it's not the recreational users of hemp that she worries about.
We're going to see a lot of these individuals that may be using cannabis or hemp products for anxiety or for seizures no longer have those access points.
A door closed on a market she says holds value for local businesses and their customers.
So this could be the kind of nail in the coffin, per se, for this industry as a whole.
In a statement sent out earlier tonight, Democratic Governor Jared Polis basically said that he felt let down by the decision. Live in Denver, Colton Chavez, 9 News.
We were flirting with record highs today, but then the highs were like, nah, I'm taken. So we drank alone at the end of the bar. I'm unclear what we're talking about at this point. It may be the weather, so let's bring in meteorologist Chris Bianchi with a look ahead.
You know what we're talking about, Chris.
I don't. Let's clear it up a little bit more now.
Very flirty day with those highs.
Your single days are long gone.
Ooh, it was flirting indeed. Yeah, we got close. We had a high temperature of 73 officially for us in Denver. Daily record 75. So, as you said, single, still not taken. But meantime for us, 50s for us across most of the metro area, though it's dropped down to 45 for us out at the Centennial Airport. Temperatures 40s, 50s for most of the eastern plains, though some notable cool spots. La Junta as well as Lyman right now in the 30s, and also some 30s for us in the high country at this hour. Topped out in the 70s and 80s eastern plains, a lot of 50s and 60s for us in the high country. Radar quiet as could be. It'll stay that way for the next little while. Now the story though, warm dry day ahead for tomorrow, slight cool down this weekend, and maybe some rain showers for us late on Sunday night into Monday morning. I'll let you know if that disrupts the Broncos game and maybe our first flakes of the season mid to late next week. I'll detail that for you coming up in my full forecast.
Democratic Governor Jared Polis is asking for FEMA funding to help with the recovery from last month's historic flooding in southwest Colorado. Today, the governor requested a major disaster declaration from President Trump. His office says so far, FEMA has validated nearly $14 million in damage to public infrastructure. Most of that roads and bridges across La Plata, Archuleta, and Mineral counties. No one was seriously hurt, but people in roughly 400 homes were evacuated, and nearly a dozen people were rescued from the flood waters. The state already declared a disaster, freeing up $6 million in state funding.
Tonight, the Denver Public School Board voted to censure one of their own, John Youngquist. He is one of the most vocal critics of Superintendent Alex Marrero. A 5-1 vote happened 2 weeks after an independent report was released, finding that Youngquist, more likely than not, showed bias and spoke to staff in belittling and dismissive ways. But the investigation cleared Youngquist of overt racism. He called the report retaliatory. Superintendent Marrero requested the investigation into his critic, and after it was released, the superintendent asked the board to censure Youngquist. A censure is a public reprimand. It doesn't remove Youngquist from the board. That could only be done through a recall by voters.
A house fire that killed 2 people and a dog in Adams County started outside on a wooden deck, and then it spread to the home. That's according to an update from fire officials. The fire was reported just before 2 a.m. Sunday morning at a home on Bronco Road. That's northwest of the intersection of I-25 and Highway 36. The names of the people who died have not yet been released.
A Columbine Valley police sergeant who used flock cameras to wrongly accuse a woman of stealing a package, we've learned was fired from a previous job in law enforcement. Sergeant Jamie Milliman showed up to Chrisana Elzer's door in September, accused her of taking the package. He called the case a lock, said that they had license plate tracking camera footage and doorbell video to prove it. But she says that the officer refused to show her the video. He just left and gave her a citation. The case was dropped 2 weeks later when she turned in her own video evidence proving her innocence. 9 News Investigates discovered the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office fired this guy back in 2013. A letter we obtained said he failed to take reports from citizens, didn't read Miranda rights to a minor, and left other paperwork incomplete.
It comes as no surprise with the way he handled following procedures and processes for this particular incident as well.
The town of Columbine Valley says they were aware of Milliman's firing, but said he did also have positive references when he was hired. He's now being disciplined for how he handled this latest case, required to go through additional training over the next 30 days.
CU is now in the mix for a new athletic director.
Rick George announced today that he's stepping down from the position he's held since 2013. Spring and John Treese to talk about this. So Rick George is going to transition into what they're calling like special assistant or advisor to the chancellor.
He'll help out. He'll give feedback, but his main duties, he's basically retired from. Yeah, we talk about Rick George. He was the recruiting coordinator under Bill McCartney and then an associate athletic director for the national championship team in 1990. He left and came back to fill the top spot in the department when they needed it the most in 2013. No one loves Colorado more, and at age 65, he will move on. George is most closely associated with taking a chance and hiring Deion Sanders in 2023, a move that landed the school on shows like 60 Minutes and The Today Show and on every cover of every magazine where pop culture and sports collided, just as Folsom Field attendance was bleak. But in his 13 years, he's also championed the biggest facility upgrades in school history and redirected CU to the Big 12. His time in Boulder dates back to 1987. He's been here. He's poured so much of his life. His family has grown up here, and he did it during seismic change.
Yeah. Put them on the map. Filled those stands, I'll tell you that.
Just take a look at this year. It has not been a successful football season, and they are pushing 50,000 every single home game.
Sold out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is interest, even if there is not success.
And that's half the battle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, a tough spot to fill, that's for sure. We'll see.
But there will be plenty of interest in that job, too.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine so. John, thank you.
Yep.